Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report. Thank you so very much for tuning in. You know how much I appreciate it. Hey, before we begin this interview with Neon from neonrevolt.com, which is one of the most prolific and important Q-related analysis websites in existence today, I want to let you know that this interview is being brought to you in part by Virtual Shield VPN. Did you know that a 2018 study from a Vanderbilt professor found that Google's tracking of your online habits is even worse and creepier than you think? Google's collection of passive data is done often without your knowledge. And meanwhile, another tech expert says Google's Chrome has become spy software. Guys, look, we've said it a million times. The best way to protect yourself is to use a proven, reliable VPN. If you're sick and tired of being spied on by Big Brother, get a real VPN that will actually protect your privacy. Visit our friends at virtualshield.com. Virtual Shield VPN is the easiest to use VPN in the world and one of the fastest, and their no-log policy protects users from any data breaches, and they would never ever sell your data like Facebook would. And all this month, Virtual Shield is offering 20% off all VPN plans and premium add-ons, including IdentiSafe, which allows you the ability to block off computer, microphone, and camera access from any unwanted spies or hackers. You have the right to remain private. So check out Virtual Shield VPN and save 20% this month. I'll leave the link below this video. All right, friends, without further ado, here comes Neon Revolt. And boy, is this a privilege and an honor to have on the one and only, guys. If you're not familiar with neonrevolt.com, you've been missing out for a very long time. I've got Neon Revolt on right now. He's writing a new book. It's called Revolution, the story of QAnon and the Second American Revolution. In fact, he's already written the book, and you can buy it. Neon, welcome.
Hey, Sean, thanks for having me on today.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. I've been a follower of your website for a very long time. And just as an aside, I should tell people, your website, neonrevolt.com, got very, very big and very, very popular very, very quickly. You came out of nowhere and you started writing these articles, which frankly make anybody working at the Washington Post or CNN look like absolute fools. They look like they never went to journalism school. They don't know how to do investigative journalism. That's by design because they don't. And you're writing stuff that, even for those of us who are informed and awake, flips our lids, man. We can't, like, your level of detail in these articles is absolutely extraordinary. Guys, neonrevolt.com quickly soared to, I think, better than the top 10,000 trafficked websites in the United States. But then Neon took a break because he was writing this book, which he began researching back in May of 2018. This thing has taken him almost a year because he really wants to do service to the QAnon community and to the story of Q. Did I pretty much get that right, Neon?
Yeah, you did excellent there, man. Holy cow, what an intro. I'm not even sure how to follow that up. That's amazing. And I have to thank you because I noticed early on you were mirroring my articles. And I think, you give me so much credit, but that was, because people like you helped spread the word. And that had a tremendous impact. So I have to thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Where in the heck did you come from? You literally came out of nowhere. And you're writing such detail, and your ability to discern all of this deep state madness and give us the names, give us the details. You're essentially mapping it all out. I mean, your latest article here, How to Win Like Flynn, dissecting General Flynn's long game. How do you come up with this stuff, man?
I mean, it's really just a matter of spending a lot of time with the material and paying really close attention. I think that's part of the problem we have as just a society. We're all being pulled in so many different directions that we have to rely on these different authority sources who, are supposed to be bringing us the news. And that's what's gotten us into the situation, is that we can't trust those people. But the thing is, if you pay attention long enough and close enough, you're going to be able to piece together things that aren't necessarily what's being repeated in the mainstream. So when I was looking at, all that Flynn stuff, it was just the pieces coming together. And then the story about, Fethullah Gulen and his schools, this whole, the thing is, Flynn told us that in 2016. It was just a matter of going back to what Flynn himself had said. So, and when you go back and you read his articles, it's like, oh my goodness, it's all there. He was trying to tell us 3 years ago, and somehow everyone missed it. So when I published that, I was actually really delighted, because then the Gateway Pundit picked up on the article and republished quite a large chunk of it. But then Flynn's brother and sister both liked it on Twitter. with his sister going, "True, this is true." So I was floored. I was really amazed with the response to that article. And if anybody hasn't read that already and they want to know what's going on with Flynn, it's right on the main page of my website. So
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So we know that CNN, I've said that if you want to understand what the deep state talking points are, watch CNN. And that's not hyperbole. I mean, I literally mean you can watch Phil Mudd, for instance, former CIA, go on constantly and bash this president and talk about him being not mentally fit for office and the 25th Amendment. And the talking points, they're so desperate at this point because the Russiagate fable has been exposed for what it is, a fable. Yeah. So given that fable, given what we know now, who do you think are the biggest heroes in this story? Is it Admiral Mike Rogers? Is it Julian Assange? Is it General Flynn? Who are some of the biggest heroes in this story?
I think Mike Rogers, without a doubt, hands down, is probably one of the biggest heroes in this. Without him, we would know so much less. And then there was that video, I only saw it recently, but where he's testifying to Lindsey Graham about how the FISA warrant was supposed to go through, the right channels. And I think he said it didn't, basically, and they were spying on Flynn. Without Rogers, without a doubt, we'd be still in the dark, and we'd probably be looking at President Clinton right now.
Yeah, and that's what they wanted, not Mike Rogers. I mean, just for people who are listening, you got to recall Mike Rogers saw the queries coming into the NSA database, and there was an enormous number of queries that should not have been coming in. They were anomalous, and so he figured it out, and he went to President Trump. He went literally to Trump Tower, met privately with Trump, and the very next day, Trump and the entire campaign staff got the heck out of Trump Tower because they were being spied on. And then this president goes out and he says, we've been wiretapped, we've been spied on. And this horror Mockingbird mainstream media makes fun of him and says, oh, that's preposterous.
Right. Meanwhile, Obama, it's been known that he's been spying on everybody since, I want to say at least 2013 when it came out that he was spying on Merkel, foreign spying. So yeah. All right, it was a tool in his toolkit. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I've just got these big, giant questions. These aren't even great questions, but I'm just curious to get your take then. So if we know who some of the heroes are in this story, who are maybe the top 3 villains? If you could pick 3 people that should be indicted and arrested today, which 3 would you pick? Because I know you could pick 10, so I'm asking you to pick 3 or 4.
Ooh, that's a juicy question. I'd pick Clapper. Yeah. I'd pick Brennan. And number 3...
Obama or Clinton?
I mean, let's just throw Obama in there because I would like to see it.
Yeah. But where do we sit with Hillary Clinton? I mean, you can't even begin to overestimate the corruption with this woman, the DNC, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. They stacked the deck against Bernie in the primaries, the DNC. Debbie Wasserman Schultz had to step down in shame. Of course, these people have no shame, so they don't care. But now the DNC is in, I think, $11 million worth of debt because they can't get any donations because even people who are Democrats can't stand the DNC. People feel betrayed. The Clinton body count continues to grow, it seems, over time. The billions and billions missing from the Clinton Foundation, the people of Haiti, the child trafficking. Where in the world should Hillary Clinton be other than Guantanamo?
6 feet under.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? You say that tongue in cheek because we would never, ever advocate violence. But honestly, given the penalty for treason.
Right. That's what I mean.
Might be the penalty. That is one of the penalties is that when are we going to see it, though? When are we going to see rule of law kick in? Tell us your thoughts on Attorney General Barr, the sealed indictments, things that are going on right now as we speak. Because I continue to see people in the comments and on Twitter say, nothing's changed, nothing will ever change, nothing's happening, you people are lunatics, blah, blah, blah. But I think very real things are happening behind the scenes. We just have yet to see the high-profile perp walks.
Of course. I mean, it's one of those things where one of the common complaints I hear is there's been no arrests. Well, what was Nexium all about? We just saw Keith Raniere go down. That was one of the unsealed indictments. That was that, and that's a gigantic one because that leads to so many other operations. It's a pulling at a thread and seeing where it leads. That's one of the biggest guys they could have nailed. Apart from where we are in this timeline. Well, let's talk about Barr real quick. I mean, I think what Barr is doing right now is he's getting more information from people who want to talk. I'm not saying they're making deals. I think he's just trying to get as much information as possible because they want to make sure, and I've said this before, if you're going to go after the Clintons, you better not miss. And they want to make their case as watertight as possible to make sure they nail them and they cannot escape. So they're willing to listen to anybody right now who thinks they have any information to offer. And I can't blame them for that. So if it's going to take, a couple more months than what I would personally want, by all means, let's wait it out and let's make sure this is done absolutely correctly, because we don't want these guys, wriggling their way out of justice.
Yeah, that's right. And I had Dave Janda, Operation Freedom, on recently, and he basically said something similar to what you just said, which is, what scares the deep state the most? Other deep staters talking, right? Getting pinched, spilling the beans, and talking. Because some of these people, if there's panic in D.C. and the rats are fleeing a sinking ship, what do rats want to do? I mean, they'll climb over each other to try to survive. And so
that's right.
I think, that's our greatest hope. And just to back you up here and talk about arrests and real investigations that are going on, you'll recall that DOJ airplane that landed in Arkansas last year a couple of times.
Yes.
And Corey Diggs has done such good work reporting on the number of people who have been arrested or under investigation who are actually doing prison time now from Arkansas, from Little Rock. People tied to the Clintons. The crimes and the corruption in Little Rock and Arkansas specifically are off the charts. And I think that all goes back to the Clintons and the CIA and the Mena, Arkansas drug running. I always like to say the Bush family, George Sr., former head of the CIA, the Bushes made the Clintons. And they made the Clintons with the CIA drug running out of Mena. So, we talk about the right and left, the false paradigm, but boy, there's no better example than Papa Bush, former head of the CIA, becoming president. And then CIA drug running through Mena, basically handing the baton to Bill Clinton, who was a nobody little governor in a nobody little state. And then Bill becomes president. I mean, that's the false right paradigm right there. It's the right and the left controlled by the CIA.
That's right. And if I recall correctly, I don't remember where I read this, but it was actually chosen. Bill was chosen at the Bohemian Grove. It was going to be a toss-up. I think this was a Crazy Days and Nights post. I could be mistaken on that, but it was going to be a toss-up between Jeb and Clinton, and it ended up going to Clinton. So everything was controlled. If you don't understand the way George Bush and his whole operation with that, it all goes back to him, because he was like the grand poobah in charge of the whole cabal, the North American cabal, if you want to call it that. But he was sort of the kingmaker, and he decided that Bill was going to be the leading candidate during that race.
So it reminds me of the Bush Sr. funeral. What do you make of all those envelopes that were being handed out and the looks of shock on the faces of people like Biden, Jeb Bush, and Bush Jr.'s wife there, the Obamas? I mean, what do you make of those envelopes that were being handed out? That was a very strange, anomalous event. And I would like to note that President Trump, being the boss that he is, he got up and walked out of there before the casket was even out of the church. Your thoughts on that funeral?
Well, the only thing I can say about the envelopes themselves is what Q himself said, which was it was their promise to respond, if I remember correctly. I really wish I knew what it said, but I think the looks on their faces say it all. They were quite shocked, especially Jeb. His reaction had to be the funniest. But as far as the funeral goes, I mean, that was a huge expenditure for the cabal. When the loss of their leader, who had been, entrenched there for so long. Effectively, even when Bush was out of the CIA, he was still running the CIA. He considered it his home. My operating theory with Bush is that he took the cyanide pill. I don't think he actually died of natural causes. I think he sacrificed himself in order to kick the can down the road. And I think that shows the level of desperation the cabal has right now and what they're willing to do. And ultimately for what? It was because of D5, and D5 turned out to be a ruse. So that was the most brilliant part of it all to begin with. It's just the fact that Q kept hyping this D5, 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 and then it turned out to be nothing. And the true cause of it all was to get the cabal to waste ammo. So, yeah.
No, it's interesting because, my gut feeling on that event with Papa Bush dying. Again, Q has said bloodlines. Look at the bloodlines. We're going to talk about that in a second. But the bloodlines of the Bush family, of course, go back, like all of us, go back to the beginning. But, Prescott Bush was involved in the attempted coup of the U.S. government with those fascists back in 1930 or whatever, in the early 1930s. And that's all on the record. There were hearings And of course, none of the bad guys ever went to jail, but these people have treachery in their blood. So we'll talk about bloodlines, but my gut feeling on that entire changing of the guard, which didn't occur, I don't think, when Bush Sr. died, is that those sons, they're not as evil, I guess is what I'd say, as Bush Sr. I think Bush Sr. was hardcore evil, like Hillary Clinton. But I don't think his offspring is quite as evil, at least as it pertains to Jeb and Bush Jr. The point being that nobody was willing to step into that vacuum of evil. That's my gut.
I'm not so sure. I wouldn't say they're less evil. I would say that they're probably less capable. You know,
yeah.
They sort of grew up in a life of relative privilege. Obviously, when your dad is president, that's a big deal. So you get special treatment. I'm not sure, or well, when you compare it to, Poppy Bush, it's almost like Poppy Bush earned it every step of the way. I hate to use the term earned it, but he really did a lot of legwork where he was working, with the Zapata Oil Company. It was really, a CIA front as far back, I want to say it's 1959. I wrote a whole chapter on Bush Sr. in my book and trace, like you said, trace it back to Prescott Bush and the business plot and General Smedley Butler, even going back to, their ties with Nazi Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't think that they're as savvy as the elder Bush was. And he was, you can trace, the crack cocaine epidemic back to the Bushes. You can trace it back, you can trace the Bay of Pigs invasion back to the Bushes. And he was always just willing to go that extra mile to get the goals of the cabal accomplished. I think that's what you can say about Bush, but I'm not so sure his sons are, because it gets messy. And I think they just don't have the temperament for it,
right,
in quite the same way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, it's kind of what I was driving at. And, the level of evil that Bush Sr. was involved in throughout his life is really astounding. He's the one person in the United States that couldn't remember where he was the day JFK was assassinated. Can you imagine? I have no recollection of where I was. So up to his neck in it. And then he becomes the director of the CIA out of nowhere. And then he becomes president. I mean, you want to talk about the deep state infiltration of our nation and our government. Look no further than that. The former head of the CIA becomes president. I mean, good night, Irene. That's the end of the republic right there. All right. So Q is helping us, I think, and the White Hats are helping us try to regain our republic and control of the republic. And I do want to ask you about the bloodlines and talk about Fritz Springmeier's book and talk about your excellent article, The Unseen Masters of All QAnon. You talk about the 13 bloodlines, Payseur, and of course, Fritz Springmeier, who helped us understand all of that. But the Payseurs was something I was unfamiliar with until I read your article. I always talk about the Rothschilds being the richest family in the world, blah, blah, blah. This Payseur thing was a real eye-opener. But do you want to talk about Q proofs, or would you rather go on and talk about the bloodlines?
We can talk about the Q proofs. The Q proofs are great.
What do you think are some of the best Q proofs? Because I continue to see people say the Q is nothing but a LARP, but these aren't experts. These are armchair quarterbacks that like to say that. And, there's a whole cottage industry in trying to discredit the Q movement. But in your view, what are maybe the top 3, 4, or 5 Q proofs?
I think the best Q proofs that we have come from really early in the Q movement. If you recall, on the first day that Q ever posted, Trump had posted earlier on Twitter along the lines of, these are the best consecutive Qs we've had in years. He was talking about business quarters, but he used the term Qs, and then Q post just a short while later. Apart from that, you can look at the image that was posted to Twitter. Q referenced it himself, where the line on the randomly generated file name, supposedly quote unquote randomly generated, said "Do it Q." That was not an accident. That was not a coincidence.
Right.
When you can also look at the time when an anon asked Q, "Could you get Trump to say tip top?" And then later on the Easter celebration, when he's out on the deck of the White House, and he has the guy in the Easter bunny costume next to him, he's going, these are, sometimes we like to say tippy top.
Yeah.
So I think, when it comes to Q proofs, there's a lot of context that you need to have. It's almost like you need to have somebody sit down and explain it to you, because if you're not there in the moment, you miss them and they look like nothing. But once you add them up and you see proof after proof after proof after proof. They add up into this collective body of proofs that just can't be faked. And actually, what I'm going to do, because I downloaded a video that was about a half an hour long of all these great Q proofs, and I haven't been able to find it anywhere since. I think it's been purged from the internet, which wouldn't surprise me given, how Google operates these days.
Right.
But I will, unless the original creator comes to me and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'll re-upload the video to BitChute, and I'll put that up on my website just so everybody can have access to it, because it's one of the best videos you can share with your friends, with your family, with your neighbors. If you wanted to explain, it's one of the best that I've ever seen, anyways.
Oh,
if you
great.
wanted to explain, here are Q proofs, and it's a great watch too. The guy who put it together did a stunning job on it, so I have to commend him for that.
Okay, well, send me that link, and if I remember to, I'll put it
Yeah.
in the more information section below this video. And, given that you just mentioned Google, I'm sure you saw the Project Veritas undercover hidden cam video of Jen Janai, the former head of Google Trust and Safety, who now even has a bigger position within that company, basically saying, look, we're going to rig this thing because we don't want a replay of 2016, right? This Trump situation can't occur again, and we've been working on this hard since 2016, essentially admitting to the fact that they rigged their results. They rigged the search results, the keywords that you type in when you're looking for anything, guys. Look at how they autocomplete. Look at how you never get anything about the Clinton emails autocompleting. Look at how you get nothing but negativity when you type in Trump. These people are absolute out-of-control fascists, and they are so anti-American, Neon, that it defies my belief. They are hardcore social justice warriors, and they need to be brought to heel by this government. Look, I'm not looking for bigger government, but I'm looking for the rule of law. And
Right.
Google and YouTube are in violation of the rule of law. I think they're involved in tortious interference. They're in violation of the First Amendment. They're in violation of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. What'd you make of that Project Veritas undercover video? Which, by the way, YouTube is now deleted.
Yeah, and the ultimate of ironies, right?
Yeah, covering up their crimes by deleting evidence of it.
Well, I think it just, verified what we all knew already and what we all suspected. We've seen conservatives getting deplatformed and demonetized for a while now, but this just made it official. And sure, they'll come in before government and they'll say one thing, but in actuality, they're going behind the government's back, behind our backs, and doing us all a disservice, doing our republic a disservice. I don't want to call it a democracy. We're a democratic republic, but you get what I mean.
For sure.
The level of censorship has gotten so bad on YouTube. I think the best thing for people to do is just support alternate tech sites that will not infringe on your free speech. So this is one of the reasons why I've moved everything over to Gab, why if I have videos, why I mirror everything to BitChute, because these companies respect people's speech. That's the track record they have. That's what we've seen from the time they've been around. So that's the best course of action for us. And in the meantime, the government has to tackle these tech giants and make sure they're not acting as publishers, because right now they are. They are. And if they're going to act as publishers, they need to be treated as publishers.
Right. Right. And just so people understand that, they're acting as publishers because they are picking and choosing which content can be on their platform and which content violates their very fuzzy rules, including the overreaching and blanket term they use, hate speech. So that's what they're doing. They're picking and choosing. And that's in violation of Section 230, because under Section 230, they're supposed to be a level platform, a playing field where everybody has access to free speech. But Jen Janai says, we don't care. So I just can't think of anything more overtly authoritarian than that. And of course, Google says they want more authoritative sources to be the top news returns when you type in a search for anything. They want to give you CNN, Washington Post, MSNBC. So that's why they're killing the alternative media, is because they're trying to rig the 2020 election. I want to say one more thing, too, and get your thoughts on this. People say, well, build your own YouTube. Well, I just saw an excellent video the other day, and I forget who it was by. It might have been by Bering or one of these other alternative news folks, alternative viewpoint folks on YouTube. But he made a great point. The problem with building anything new, Mike Adams has tried it with Brighton. We have BitChute. But the problem is that the global audience is on YouTube, and most of the global audience is apathetic, meaning the makeup channels, the gaming channels, the open box, look at this cool stuff channels. Those people aren't going anywhere. They're apathetic. So the global audience is going to remain on YouTube. And by the way, YouTube was a losing proposition for many, many years. We still don't know if it's making money. It's got billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars in backing by Google. So it's impossible to compete with YouTube. They are the biggest public town square, the biggest public square in the world. So we really do need to go after them for their attack on free speech.
The problem with that is ultimately how do you hold them to their word? Do you pass some legislation or fine them and hope they change? I don't know if that's going to be effective. So, and again, like you said, YouTube has been a losing proposition. There is no way that YouTube is making them money. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I've seen a dramatic rise in the amount of ads I see on YouTube videos. I mean, obviously I have ad blockers on my desktops, but on something like a phone, if you're viewing a YouTube video on a phone, you'll see 2, 3, 4 ads in a video now where it used to be just one. And I think that's partially because the flow of deep state money has been cut off, and now they have to try to recoup some of their costs just to stay afloat. But beyond that, I just don't know how you hold these people to any sort of standard, because they'll just go around right back in and program in a Band-Aid, and you have to go through this whole process again. So apart from totally breaking up their monopoly and making sure that YouTube now has to face real actual costs, because they don't have to deal with costs right now. And that's like you said, that's why they're the biggest public forum on the internet today. It's because they don't have to, everyone else has to deal with the realities of the cost of streaming video, while they really don't, because they're subsidized by the larger Google machine. So it's a tough problem. It's a tough nut to crack. And I fall back on just work with people work with companies that respect your free speech. So bypass them completely. Because I mean, I started with Gab and I had, I want to say maybe 400 followers. I'm coming up on 20,000 now, but it's taken a while. And if you don't start building today, those solutions aren't going to be around in the future. And side note, Gab is going to get one of the biggest upgrades it's ever gotten on July 4th. They're rolling out the brand new, they're switching to the Mastodon framework, which is amazing. It's going to be available on everybody's phones. You can use your choice of app with it. It's going to bring back video embeds. You're going to be able to embed Gab posts into web, like blogs or whatever, articles. And it's going to be a major upgrade. And that wouldn't have been possible without having the community there to support the site. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, if someone's not playing fair, you got to bypass them and work with people who are willing to play fair. I realize that something like BitChute may not be super ideal for someone has 1 million subscribers on YouTube, but as long as you're mirroring content,
right,
and your audience knows where to find you, they'll have an option. You'll be and God forbid, worst case scenario happens and a big channel gets deplatformed, your audience will still be able to find you. So
yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
I would just remind people, I see this comment a lot. Sean, you need to be on BitChute. That's where everybody's going. And I always say, I am on BitChute. I've been on BitChute for more than a year. And the fact that you don't know it is part of the problem, guys, because you're on YouTube telling me I should be on BitChute. But so for those that want to know, you can find me very easily on BitChute. Use the Brave browser. Avoid Google Chrome, guys. Google Chrome is spying on you. But use the Brave browser and type in BitChute SGT report, and it'll get you to my channel there on BitChute. So let me ask you this. Your new book, Revolution, The Story of QAnon in the Second American Revolution. Great title. Where do people get it? Is it available right now? How do people find it? And just tell us a little bit more about the book. I know you've been working on it for a year, which really took you away from neonrevolt.com, and you saw probably your traffic stats plummet because instead of posting articles, you're so damn prolific. I mean, you're posting these super detailed, long articles just about every day or every other day, and then you started really working on the book. So let's get the word out on the book. People should support you and get a copy.
Yeah, if they want to take a look at what the book is all about, they can go to neonrevolt.com/revolutionq. That'll lead them to the Indiegogo link. As of right now, there's under 48 hours left in the Indiegogo, and that's going to be the only way to get the book for quite some time. So if they think they even want it, get your order in now, because I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to bring it to something like Amazon or Barnes and Noble or wherever. We're hoping to, obviously, but it's a big process. So this is going to be the only way to get the book for quite some time.
Well, we should have done this call sooner. So folks that are listening to this, by the time I get this posted, you're probably going to only have 24 hours in which you can get this book. Yeah, I see the link here at the very top of your website.
Yeah, I may be able to extend that a little bit. We'll see. I got to talk to Indiegogo. But Yeah, that they just got to go to neonrevolt.com/revolutionq, and they'll be able to find all the info.
Okay. And let me ask you this then. Your article was so important, this article about the Pacers. Q has said bloodlines, follow the bloodlines. When we think about Fritz Springmeier's work, Bloodlines of the Illuminati from 1995, you have that in this article, The Unseen Masters of All. Have these 13 bloodlines essentially been sucking the blood out of humanity for a millennia? What do you make of these bloodlines? I mean, these people have really been plaguing us since the very beginning, haven't they?
The bloodlines are an interesting topic because we often call them, the 13 bloodlines, but it's not necessarily just 13. And these people take on different names. And, there's talk of, Bill Clinton being a secret Rockefeller and, stuff like that happening. So there is some, obviously Clinton doesn't have the Rockefeller name, but if that's true, that would put him in the Rockefeller bloodline.
Right.
So this has been one of the toughest subjects for me to approach because I want to understand what they think makes them special and puts them above the rest of us. And you can go back to, the Merovingians and Clovis, and then you can go back to the ancient Egyptians and Mystery Babylon. You can dive into this subject really, at a low level detail, but I still haven't been able to figure out why they think they're better than the rest of us and entitled to rule, other than they think they play by a different set of rules and can use the rest of us as pawns and sacrifice us and, to whatever cause they deem worthy, whether it be it war or, famine or whatever, even disease. There's talk of things like AIDS being a man-made disease. If you want to go back to Dr. Mary's monkey and the experiments they were running in New Orleans, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But that's the one thing I really want to understand. Is it just that they're satanic and they've kept these satanic practices within their families, or is it something else? And maybe you can speak to that, but that's my biggest question.
Yeah, I think that they're Luciferians and they worship a very dark power. They believe that their power is derived from the worship of the fallen one. And at the end of the day, that's what explains how they can be engaged in such evil: child trafficking, satanic ritual abuse of children, the cover-up of those activities. And it just, when you go down this rabbit hole, it really turns your world upside down because their world is upside down, right? Dark to light, light to dark. I mean, they literally are the enemies of humanity, and it's because I think they worship the fallen one. I mean, I'll give you one example that I think is just, for me, it's sort of mind-blowing. I bring it up all the time. So before anybody had heard about Pizzagate, James Alefantis, named by GQ as being the top, the 50th most powerful person in Washington, D.C., a pizza shop owner. That makes literally no sense, right? So he's more powerful than senators and congresspeople and whatever. 50th most powerful man. Before anybody had really heard his name and heard about Comet Ping Pong and Pizzagate, a full year prior to Pizzagate becoming a thing, because of the Podesta emails and all the coded language he was using, etc., it was Jake Tapper's wife, Jennifer, who was interviewed by the Washingtonian about her family and being a mom. And she was asked what their favorite restaurant was. And her answer was their favorite family restaurant was Comet Ping Pong. And their favorite date night restaurant was Buck's Camping and Fishing, also associated with Alefantis, on that same street where all of that stuff implicated some of these powerful people in Washington as potentially being involved in child trafficking. So to me, that's just too big a coincidence. And to me, it speaks to how big this thing is and how the mainstream media, the people at the top of the mainstream media, are involved to some degree in this stuff, in the cover-up of it. I'm not alleging anything specifically nefarious being done by Tapper or his wife, but I'm saying that's an awfully big coincidence, don't you think?
I absolutely would think that's a huge coincidence. I hadn't heard that before, so that's pretty staggering. Yeah. Even when you go back, if you look at some of the stuff Will Sommer has written, he said that Comet Ping Pong was one of his favorite restaurants. So why does this keep appearing? And yet they're all at the same time writing articles saying, no, Pizzagate isn't real. Look the other way.
Yeah. Greta Van Susteren also, I think she tweeted out about Comet Ping Pong's great. I love to go there for pizza. I mean,
what a coincidence.
Yeah. And here's my thing. I said this to my wife the other day. we've been to Washington, D.C. several times. It's known for world-class restaurants. I mean, they have Michelin-rated, 4-star restaurants. They've got wonderful restaurants. There's a great place if you ever get to Washington, D.C., guys. Go check out Thunder Burger. That's a hell of a lot more fun restaurant than Comet Ping Pong, which I've never been to. So for all of these people to say that Comet Ping Pong, a crappy pizza place, is their favorite restaurant in D.C., it just doesn't pass the smell test, man. It just does not pass the smell test. All right. Well, maybe I've taken enough of your time here. So let me do this. I'm on your website now. I want to buy a few copies of this book. I'm on neonrevolt.com/revolutionq and click here to pre-order. It's taking me to Indiegogo Projects Revolution Q. All right, I'm getting it. Wow, you've raised 322% of your goal. That's fantastic.
Yeah, been a pretty tremendous response.
So now, does that mean you're going to be able to print more books, or how does this work? And what should I do to get myself a book here? Is it a double pack, $47?
Yeah, the featured is the double pack, but if you wanted just a single for yourself, just go right underneath that. There's a single. I absolutely will be able to print more books than just what I owe for people. So that's going to be tremendous, and that's what's going to really help get the book out into retail channels. That was really the big thing. There are so many upfront costs with publishing a book that there was really no other way. I had to do a crowdfunding campaign in order to get this out there. And I have to thank every single one of my backers because the response has been just tremendous. And this would not be happening without you guys. So I'm so grateful. I think the world is going to be grateful to you once they get their hands on this. It's going to make a big impact because you have to remember there's coming a time where Q even said, we're not going to have access to the internet. The internet's going to go dark. So how do you explain Q in depth if you don't have access to, web pages like, the Chan's or qmap.pub or even my site? It's going to be really, it's a difficult task unless you printed everything and archived everything. So that was one of the reasons I wrote this book, is so it could be a resource when even the internet goes down, as Q has told us should be happening at some point. So yeah, if they just wanted to order, they just got to go to the what you just did. Go to neonrevolt.com/revolutionq, follow the link to the Indiegogo, and then they can choose whatever tier they want to contribute at. We got single packs, double packs, triple packs, etc., and they can choose whatever's appropriate to them.
Excellent. All right. Well, I'm going to get at least a double pack here. I'm on the page now. Yeah, absolutely. 400-page book, guys, full color. This is going to be one that you're going to want in your library for sure to hand down to your progeny, because the information in this book, look, you captured history here, Neon. Your website helped us capture history. This is the stuff that you can't get, you won't get, you can never find from the mainstream Mockingbird media. And I guess my final question for you here before we let you go is, are you surprised that Q has been silent since, May 26th or something?
I think I'm like many other Anons. I love it when Q's here. I want to see more Q drops, but I understand the need for silence. So as much as it pains me, I'm willing to, in my wisdom, I'm willing to let Q be silent for a while.
Yeah. All right. Well, fair enough. But we will keep our eye on QAnon.pub and the other avenues to be able to find Q posts, guys. All right. Well, thanks so much. I appreciate your time today, Neon.
Thanks for having me on. This has been awesome. And thanks for all you do.
Oh, yeah. It's my pleasure. It's my honor. I feel very privileged to be able to fight the beast. I mean, literally, those monsters over there at Google and YouTube. The bottom line with our enemy, man, is they have no shame. They're social justice warriors. Essentially, they're Marxists, and they are now using doublespeak against us. Like that interview, that hidden cam footage with Jen Janai over there at Google. She kept using the word fairness. They're trying to create fairness by rigging the game and propping up the essentially losing side of the debate. In their mind, that's fairness. I mean, it's so fascist, it just defies belief. It's shocking to me, but that's what we're up against. And I appreciate you standing against the winds of tyranny, man. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Guys, the website is neonrevolt.com. Check it out. Click that banner at the very top if you want to order the book. Limited time, I think, to be able to get it, at least in this first run. And we really appreciate your time today. Thanks for joining us, guys. A shout out to my patrons. You're making a world of difference to help us stay in the game. People like Tim Pool get full monetization and no monkey games with their view counts over there on YouTube, while the rest of us suffer with most of our stuff being demonetized. So a shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much. And guys, for real news 24/7, check us out at sgtreport.com, the antidote to corporate propaganda and Mockingbird mainstream media lies. Thanks for listening. God bless. Bye-bye.
whatever happens to me doesn't matter, because what I've done now is done, and now this sparks so many more people, and it awakens so many more people to what's going on in tech.